The Cannes Film Festival starts this week, so we're taking this opportunity to look back at some of the best Palme d'Or winners of the last 25 years. Joining me now is my colleague David Moricond, our specialist in film and many other things. David, if you had to put your money on it, what would you be choosing? What should we be looking back at? What for you have been the best Palme d'Or winners of the 21st century?
Well, I did a top five because it's not easy to kind of limit it, and yeah, there have been some absolutely fantastic films that have won the Palme d'Or, and it just goes to show quite to what extent this festival really does make its mark on cinematic culture and has done over the past 25 years. So in at number five, I think it's Juliette Ducournau's Titane. Which won the Palme d'Or. She became the first woman to ever win solo for the Palme d'Or, because Jane Campion won in 1993, but with somebody else. And yeah, to my mind, it's one of the most uncompromising, surprising, unpredictable films to ever win the Palme d'Or. For those who haven't seen it, it tells this story, this modern metamorphosis story through the codes of body horror of this model who has a sexual fixation on automobiles and who goes on a killing spree. And essentially, many people tend to kind of, just look away and shy away from this film because it is violent, it is incredibly intense, it pulls absolutely no punches. But it is a film that is really big-hearted at its core and is rather surprising in how optimistic it is towards the end, specifically because it is about metamorphosis, as I said, but also acceptance, and about the birth of a new world, a stronger world in which non-conformity is accepted, embraced, and loved in an unconditional way. And it is, for me, just one of the best Palme d'Or winners in the last 25 years.
So what makes number four on your list?
Number four, I was hesitating between Koreeda's The Shoplifters and Bong Joon-ho's Parasite, and it kind of had to go to Bong Joon-ho just purely because of the success story that Parasite has had. After the Palme d'Or win, it became the first Korean film to win the Palme d'Or and the first non-English language film to win the Best Picture Oscar. And in telling this story of these very talented grifters, this family of grifters that infiltrate a richer family, Bong Joon-ho very satirically just creates this excoriating kind of criticism missile against not only entrenched social strata, but the dehumanizing effect of South Korea's cultural levels. And it's an incredibly powerful film. It's also a film that's quite unclassifiable because it's satirical, it's absurd, it's funny, it's Hitchcockian at points in its suspense. And I think also its lasting legacy is the fact that Bong Joon-ho, when accepting, I think it was the Golden Globe that year, made this incredibly powerful speech because many people are turned off by films with subtitles, by foreign films, quote unquote, and here he made this fantastic speech saying, once you overcome the 1-inch tall barrier of subtitles, you'll be introduced to so many more amazing films, and no truer word has ever been spoken, and I think that is its lasting legacy.
Indeed, and what I particularly loved about it was I could watch it with all the family, and they wanted to watch it again and again and again.
Well, great.
And it's only number four on the list, so let's get in closer to the top. What's your number three?
My number three is The White Ribbon by Michael Haneke, who won in, I think, 2009 for this one. And he won later on, actually, for the film Amour, which is a devastating film. But I think this one, in terms of scale and scope, is his masterpiece. It's this black and white gem that is set in 1913 in a small rural Protestant village in Germany, where this baron, this doctor, and this judge essentially rule this community with an iron fist. But this is a community that's plagued with these mysterious occurrences, these strange happenings, and the children of the village are blamed for them. And essentially what Haneke does, and I think rather brilliantly, is explore the root of evil, and shows that when human beings deal with absolutes, whether they're religious or political, it just brings out the worst in humanity. And as a parable for the rise of Nazism, I think the white ribbon works very, very well. But more than that, it's just this very cryptic, very sinister little riddle that offers absolutely no answers, and it's stronger for it. And it's very much one of my favorites to ever win a Palme d'Or.
Okay, so getting even closer to the top now. What could be that? What's number two?
Number two. This one's a really tough one to recommend. It's called Uncle Bun Me Who Can Recall His Past Lives, and the thing is, it's from this Thai director Apichatpong Veeraselakul, and essentially it's this very challenging, very avant-garde execution of a very simple story at its core. It's a man who's dying, who is visited by the ghosts of his loved ones, and it just induces this dreamlike state. It's hyper-realist, it's surrealist, it makes sense without making any, but it is an incredibly sensual film. It's not an easy one to recommend because of its languid pace, and it is out there, but at the same time, there's an incredibly original and incredibly moving story of making peace with not only the material world but the spiritual world. It is one of those films that has really stuck with me, so that's my number two pick.
Okay, well, we go to movies to be moved, to feel something, and that sounds like the perfect description if you want to have something completely different happen to you over 2 hours or more. What could be better than that, in your opinion?
In my mind, the best film to ever win the Palme d'Or of the last 25 years is Elephant by Gus Van Sant. This came out in 2003, and it's based on the Columbine High School massacre. And what Gus Van Sant does with this film, he films it almost like a documentary, very minimal dialogue, these long tracking shots where the camera just glides, and it gives this poetry to every frame, but at the same time this claustrophobia, especially when you know what's going to happen. And as a portrait of teenage life, of adolescent angst, but also as a portrait of America sleepwalking into the oblivion, into tragedy, it is incredible. And it's all kind of there in the title, Elephant, because what Gus Van Sant does is address the elephant in the room: gun violence, violence in schools, and the way that it is not being addressed, not properly, not when you have just thoughts and prayers. And also it works as a parable, a little bit like the elephant and the blind men parable, where some blind people go in a room with an elephant, touch various parts, and essentially describe an animal that is completely different. And it shows to what extent that humanity has this toxic manner of dealing in absolutes, but also believing to have absolute truth from very subjective points of view, from very limited points of view. And I think this film does it in such a beautiful way and in such a scarring way. And it is, for me, not only the best film to win the Palme d'Or in the last 25 years, but certainly the most haunting film to do so.
Yeah, and one which is, again, fun perhaps is not the right word, but certainly something which the whole family, I think, should be watching. I certainly had watched that with my kids, and they were very moved. And we have a lot of, we spend so much time going through making lists like this for our own pleasure. We can talk about this for all day. But, why is it important, would you say, to remind people that these films are out there? They're more easily accessible now than perhaps they've ever been before, in terms of, you can stream, you can download them. It's really good to look back and remind ourselves of, just how beautiful cinema is.
Absolutely. And the thing is, and this isn't a quote by me, but cinema is an empathy machine. It's the closest thing we have to magic. Essentially, it's the closest thing we have to be able to put ourselves in other people's shoes, to be empathetic, to learn, and to feel, to just feel emotion And these films, whether it's Elephant talking about issues which sadly are still very relevant to this day, The White Ribbon talking about history, maybe its origins of history and how we can understand even issues that are happening today. And also when it comes to something that's a little bit more out there, like Titan, it is just incredible to feel, to shake, but also to realize that these films work on different levels. You can have a body horror film that tells you everything you need to know about unconditional love, like Juliette Ducournau does so well. Or you can have Michael Haneke depressing the absolute shit out of you during 2 hours, but it absolutely telling you everything you need to know about a certain period in history. It's these films, I think, say a lot about the time that they were released, but in some cases speak enormously to the times we live in still now, and in some cases, very depressingly so.
David, and those films say a lot about us as well. Thank you for that look back at your personal recommendations at the Palme d'Or winners for the last 25 years. Do stay with us on Euronews Culture.